Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and it will be my absolute pleasure to report on this news today, because I'll tell you what, anytime Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse gets a little blunt, accurate, fair, stern, but blunt, I want to report on it. Check out this headline. Brad Garlinghouse says Ripple and XRP are solving a $20 trillion problem, and here's the quote, "Banks don't like SWIFT." Yes, indeed. Direct from the mouth of Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO. So I'm going to run through this piece with you. I've also got a piece from A&B Crypto titled, "Ripple Exec Reveals Execution of 100,000 Transactions in Concert with Banco Santander." And the last thing I'm going to cover in this particular video, it's another piece from A&B Crypto, and it is titled, "Bitcoin's Allocation in Investor Portfolios May Have Major Upsides," says Van Eck Executive. Now, before we get going here, if you would please delicately tap that like button and go ahead and shake what your mama gave you. Subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. It's the right thing to do. Into this first piece, though, Brad Garlinghouse, my man Brad. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse is pushing back against legacy leader SWIFT, the international payments network with over 11,000 banks and financial institutions, and highlighting XRP as an improvement over Bitcoin. While SWIFT is making efforts to improve settlement times and accessibility to its global messaging system, which facilitates banking transactions and cross-border payments, Garlinghouse says banks don't like it. I want to correct this. This is crypto media. They're just getting something wrong. So I know that in and of itself, not surprising. In fact, you should go into any crypto media piece expecting there to be multiple errors, not just from a grammatical perspective, certainly that, broken sentences, incomplete sentences, improper capitalization of letters, but also from a content perspective, just straight out inaccuracies, and here is one. Again, while SWIFT is making efforts to improve settlement times, no, they are not. They are not even trying to solve the issue of settlement times. They're trying to increase the speed of the payments portion of this, which is simply the messaging portion. They're pretending that settlement problem it doesn't exist, just sticking their head in the sand, not even trying. And why? Well, frankly, the only solution humans have come up to solve the settlement problem is to utilize a cryptocurrency, the reason being it removes trust. And as such, it also can't be a stablecoin because a stablecoin requires centralization, which requires trust. It doesn't remove the issue of trust. It's quite that simple. Anyway, the piece continues here. Speaking on Tuesday in Manhattan at the Economic Club of New York, Garlinghouse says Ripple, which is growing its network of 200 banks and financial institutions, is solving a real problem at scale. Now here's a quote from my man Brad. "You have north of $20 trillion going cross-border each year. It is fraught with error rates, and it's slow and it's expensive. For me, it's the classic Silicon Valley going up against the big behemoth, Goliath. But it's so broken. When I go talk to banks, it's a beautiful thing for me because banks don't like SWIFT. They're frustrated with SWIFT. Their customers don't like SWIFT. That's a great place to be when you're selling into that. We have been so fortunate through a little bit of luck and a little bit of skill that we find ourselves with a lot of momentum in, I think, really solving a problem using the technologies at scale." For an audience of newbies, Garlinghouse also breaks down the essence of XRP when asked, "What is it?" And here's a quote from Brad again. "The original engineers who developed the XRP ledger were early Bitcoin engineers who saw that there was going to be a Bitcoin scalability problem over time. With XRP, the idea was when you're doing this mining, it slows down transactions. It makes transactions expensive. There's a better way to do that, and they developed something. I won't technically go into it, called the consensus algorithm. But basically, the idea is you don't have to have mining to verify a transaction. This group of engineers developed the XRP technology. It's an open source technology. Ripple owns a lot of XRP. We own about 55% of all XRP. So clearly, we're very interested in the health and success of that ecosystem, but it is an open source technology that Ripple uses in its technical stack." Then the piece continues, "As for the crypto market at large, it's all speculation according to Garlinghouse, and that presents challenges for the space. And here's another quote. I think 99.9% of all crypto trading today is just speculation. It's actually some amazing stats. About $40 to $50 billion per day is trading in crypto. That's a very liquid market. And indeed, I would say as an asset class it is. We still want to increase liquidity with XRP, but that'll come with adoption. All good things in time, right? Anyway, and then it says, but the value of these cryptocurrencies, he says, is dependent upon utility in the real world. And here's another quote from Brad Garlinghouse here. Ripple is using XRP to solve, I know we're going to talk about this later, a correspondent banking problem. I make the joke that if you and I decided to have a race to see who could get $10,000 to London the fastest, I would win if I just drove to JFK and flew it there. That's the fastest way to move money, which in 2019, in the world of the internet, is a pretty surprising stat. We are using XRP to help banks, to help regulated financial institutions facilitate cross-border transactions. There's other companies out in the XRP world doing other things, ranging from micropayments to identity management, other things using that open source technology, but Ripple's very focused on using it for payments, right? And then in an episode of Fortune's Balancing the Ledger on Tuesday, this is good, Garlinghouse, who says he's not betting on the launch of Libra anytime soon, describes XRP as an efficient fit for the banking and payments industry and highlights the differences between XRP and popular stablecoins. And this is substantial too. A stablecoin, this is a quote from Garlinghouse, a stablecoin like USDC, for example, that Coinbase and Circle have done, I think that is interesting in mitigating volatility. But you still have to go from dollar to peso. At some point, somebody has to bridge that. And in effect, what Ripple is doing is, let's make XRP the most efficient, the most liquid, and easiest to bridge by selling the connectors on both ends. Selling APIs that allow people to connect to both ends of that. If we have hundreds of banks to use XRP for that, I think that bodes well for the liquidity of XRP. And indeed, stablecoins absolutely cannot solve the problem that XRP seeks to solve. Because if you're talking about stablecoins, really all you're doing, again, is just you're creating multiple walled gardens, and they can work within closed networks fine. And if there's utility to be had there, I have no issues with that. I have no qualms. But you still need, a trustless distributed ledger technology with a native digital asset, XRP, to be able to bridge different closed systems. That's the only way humans have come up with to fix this problem. So there you go. And nothing else is being positioned like this. And liquidity is indeed building out. I had a video today I put out about a new market maker coming on board, which is a substantial development. It's an XRP only exchange, essentially. That is huge news. To me, that's probably, I'm pretty sure it's the biggest news of the day, unless I'm really forgetting something. There was lots of news today. To me, that was the biggest news of the day. And you should check out that video if you haven't, by the way. All right, next piece here. Ripple exec reveals execution of 100,000 transactions in concert with Banco Santander. One of the world's leading blockchain firms, Ripple's payment technologies have been popular with many banks globally. One such bank is Banco Santander, which is one of the firm's largest clients. Despite the fact that the UK-based financial institution does not leverage XRP for payments, the bank is bullish on Ripple's payment capabilities. And by the way, I want to say this too. So a lot of these customers that are using Xcurrent and not Xrapid, some of them, depending on which what markets they primarily operate, can't use Xrapid yet because there isn't either sufficient liquidity, meaning that there aren't let's just say there aren't Xrapid enabled exchanges around the world. So it depends on where you're operating. That's not some dig against Ripple. It's just an acknowledgement of where we are today. But it's all being built out. So I just want to be clear. It's not that necessarily everyone that's only using Xcurrent isn't interested in utilizing Xrapid, which is now known as on-demand liquidity, thanks to Ripple's confusing rebranding. But I'm actually for it. It makes sense. It's just in the interim when people don't realize that rebranding has occurred. If I just keep saying on-demand liquidity, not everybody's going to know I'm actually talking about Xrapid. Anyway, I'm just saying, as it pertains to Xcurrent, you're going to need more tracks to be laid before some entities, depending on where they're doing their business, where their payment flows are actually going to and from, some are not really going to be able to efficiently or in any meaningful way utilize Xrapid. That's all I'm saying, but it's okay. It is being built out. So the reason I want to cite that, though, is sometimes it's positioned as though entities that are using Xcurrent have no interest in using XRP, and that's just not the case. It really is not. Now, some don't, but Those that don't, they will in the future. They just don't know it yet. Anyway, despite the fact that UK-based financial institution does not leverage XRP for payments, the bank is bullish on Ripple's payment capabilities. While addressing the need for distributed ledger technology, or DLT, on the stage of the Economic Club of New York, Anna Boten, executive chairman of Banco Santander, stated, quote, "I think we," being Ripple and Banco Santander, "are global leaders and, I would say, top 3 or 5 in terms of blockchain-based technologies. We have a great partnership with Ripple, so we think we can lead in terms of automation. Because don't forget, this is about automation. Blockchain is just one piece of automation to make, in this case, payments more effective, more transparent, faster, and cheaper for the customer." And then the piece continues. She further revealed that the bank has executed 100,000 transactions with its first blockchain-based international money transfer service called OnePayFX, released in April of 2018. Santander had previously revealed that the transaction volume had tripled between January and June 2019. And here's another quote from her now. "I think DLT is a distributed ledger technologies are going to be," they mean ledger, but this is crypto media. Oh my God. Proofread your freaking work, crypto media. Anyway, "I think DLT is a distributed ledger technologies are going to be one of the pieces that it's going to allow for much more efficient, faster, the consumer wants everything 24/7, 365, and that's what we're going to be doing with this infrastructure." And the piece continues. The Spanish megabank exec further stressed on the Financial Stability Board's report, which stated that the application of decentralized financial technologies and the more decentralized financial system could in fact benefit financial stability. Released in June this year, the report stated that a more decentralized financial system may reinforce the importance of an activity-based approach to regulations, particularly where it delivers financial services that are difficult to link to specific entities and or jurisdictions. Along the same lines, Boten said, quote, and here's the last quote from her, "Just go and read the Financial Stability Board report on this, and they recommend in a world of DLP and distributed technologies, you need activity-based supervision because this is super important, so it took us much longer. But what we eventually did is we found a great company like Ripple, we invested in it, and together we launched OnePayFX." And so there you go. I think that's something of a meaningful milestone, is it not fair to say? So happy to report on it. Last piece here in this video. Bitcoin's allocation in investor portfolios may have major upside, says VanEck executive. Bitcoin is perhaps the fastest growing asset in 2019, outperforming the likes of a traditional assets such as the S&P 500, stocks, and oil. There is little doubt that Bitcoin is creating its own niche. However, a degree of reluctance on the part of many to invest in the asset is still evident as volatility continues to mark it as a major risk. In a recent blog, Gaber Gerbex, asset strategist at VanEck, listed out a number of facts making a considerable case for Bitcoin from the financial perspective. Comparing Bitcoin to digital gold, he mentioned that the asset was a potential store of value, just like the precious metal. You guys know what I think about that, right? Unless you're a brand new subscriber. I think that unless there's actual utility of a cryptocurrency, maybe you can say it's a store of value today, but its staying power? Not so convinced. I'm highly skeptical that there will be staying power of any cryptocurrency if it's not ultimately used for something. So right now, if it's a store of value and it keeps increasing in price, that's just because people don't know what's happening with this asset class. But you wait till the full maturation of this asset class, whether it takes 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I don't care. If Bitcoin does not ultimately get used in some meaningful way, investors will not have any confidence to continue to put money in it. And XRP, though, look at that. It's actually getting used today. There's real-world adoption, and it's great technology. It scales well, and all sorts of other stuff. Where do you think people are going to have confidence putting their money as it pertains as asset class? Something that is just a store of value because reasons, or because something's actually getting used like XRP? Think for yourself, but my opinion is it's going to be only those cryptocurrencies that have utility. Those are the ones that will stay in power. Those will be the ones that will be used as a store of value. Anyway, the Bitcoin's monetary value came from a similar background such as gold or silver, as its value existed in excess of any economic goods' intrinsic value. When correlated to other assets' risk and return-reward profile, Gerbex believes that an And allocation for Bitcoin may improve an individual's investor asset portfolios due to Bitcoin's asymmetric return profile. And in the short term, I can't even argue because people don't know what the hell they're doing. So, hey, whatever. It's probably going to go way up in value before people figure this all out. Observing the charts, the stock-to-flow ratio of Bitcoin indicates massive potential based on its historical data when compared to gold and silver. Bitcoin has consistently outperformed traditional assets throughout the year, and it continues to follow the stock-to-flow ratio chart over the past few years. Speaking about the overall industry, Gerbeck stated that crypto exchanges are at a stable state at the moment. According to him, Bitcoin and other altcoins are more accessible to retail investors, while OTC and futures market are establishing their own space in the asset industry. And the distribution of Bitcoin was also observed to be pretty even in the current market, and it was not concentrated with a specific group of people. Yeah, only the mining's concentrated. Don't worry about that. The number of wallets owning more than one Bitcoin cumulatively owned around 95% of the total supply in circulation, and only 2.1% of the addresses owned more than 100,000 Bitcoin. Gerbeck concluded his discussion with a few market risks which held considerable weight. Price volatility is one major factor, followed by governance and regulatory shortcomings. So there you go. I found the piece fascinating nonetheless. People are just doing their best to figure out big picture how things are going to pan out. And I don't know exactly how it's going to pan out. And I will say, if somehow, magically, Bitcoin is actually used and adopted in some capacity, legitimately, if you can overcome those technological hurdles, because that's part of it as well, then okay, it can be a store of value. But today, I see no reason that it will have staying power as a store of value. I'm just highly skeptical. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But somebody try and make a solid case, because I haven't. To me, there's no other reasonable conclusion one can reach. That's just my humble opinion, but I do like diversity of thought. That's it for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!